Hey y'all, and welcome to the Old Iron Talk podcast. I'm your host Callie, and today we have special guest Brian Holst with Aumann Auctions. Let's crack a beer and get to chatting. So Brian, you've worked here at Aumann Auctions for what, 4 years now?
Come up on 3 years.
3 years? All right. And how did your journey get started?
Oh, man, it started many years ago. I've always had an interest in farming. Born and raised on a dairy farm outside of Davenport, Iowa. Worked in the ag industry for many years on the John Deere side, being a parts and mechanic, a parts manager, service manager, and so on. I eventually went to work for a corporate Deere for several years, retired from that, and I really wasn't tired of playing with tractors yet. So I thought, what do I want to do for my third career so that I could still play with tractors? So I decided to give Kurt a call and just say, any possibilities? And he goes, I think we could work something out, and I guess the rest is kind of history.
And here you are.
And here I am.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love it?
Oh, I love working with tractors. I love meeting people, getting out and about. It's just fascinating. It's never the same day twice, and that's probably what I like the best about the job. It's just always moving, always going, seeing something new, something different. I used to think I knew a little bit about tractors. I know somewhat about tractors. I know a lot about John Deere, but when you get in the other colors, man, I'm learning like crazy and just having a blast.
Well, good. How long did you work at John Deere, and what departments did you transition from while there?
Okay. After I graduated from college, I spent 15 years in the dealerships, several different locations throughout the United States. And then in 2001, I started to work for Deere & Company proper, where I got to work at the John Deere Collector Center, starting off as the parts manager and eventually became the manager of the facility up until it closed in 2008. And then from there, a new department was created called the Heritage Marketing Groups. Again, still dealing with the history and heritage of the company. That department got to help plan a lot of the 175th activities that happened at all the corporate facilities and the factories throughout the United States, Canada, and Europe. And then from there, I managed the John Deere Historic Site for a period of time. That's where John Deere came after he left Vermont in 1837, and eventually that's where he perfected the self-scouring steel plow. Managed that for several years, and then from there I went to work in the John Deere archives. I became the historical equipment manager. Again, I'm still playing with equipment, but there I managed the corporate assets of all the historical equipment, which is about 450 pieces across the globe. Got to go to Europe, take a look at the collection over there, and do a lot of inventory management, accessions, deaccessions, repairs, maintenance, and stuff like that. Get things ready for shows when people needed them. And then from there, my last venture with the company, I was with the brand management side. So I got to be a little bit more focused on the protection of the brand in the public eye. So all in all, I spent about 20 years at corporate Deere.
Now, growing up on the dairy farm, did you guys have any Deeres?
We did. It was a planter.
Okay.
But that was it. My dad always said we farmed with the best equipment ever made, and it was called paid for. So we had all different brands, all different makes. We didn't farm big by any means, but we had case tractors, international combines. It was just all over the board, but it gave me an appreciation of different brands. Mm-hmm. And when I graduated from college, like I said, I got to work at an Allis-Chalmers dealership and then eventually into the John Deere network. And I found I really liked working on the John Deere equipment, the parts, the way they're labeled and numbered. It made sense to me, and it just became kind of natural.
Yeah, you just found out that it was the dominant brand, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
All right. I can get behind that. We also farm with John Deere, so that's always been our brand as well. Okay, what was your favorite job while working at John Deere throughout your departments?
I've been so lucky, I'll be honest with you. Starting off with the John Deere Collector Center, that is probably the one that I hold nearest and dearest to my heart. Mm-hmm. Working at the historic site was phenomenal as well. Standing actually where John stood on the archaeological floor where his blacksmith shop was, it sent chills through you.
Yeah, I bet.
I got to work on John Deere's house, repairing it, fixing it, where he lived, where he raised his family. So I'm going to say it's a historic site. That's where I got to meet so many collectors throughout the United States. We had shows there, we had auctions there, and it's kind of what formed my shape of where I'm at in the hobby, I guess, right now. Met a lot of great people. I always tell my kids that I can go just about anywhere in the United States within 2 hours. I can have help if I need it, because there's so many great people in this hobby that are willing to help at any given moment, and I do the same for them.
Mm-hmm. Miranda, I know you have a few pictures. Would you mind pulling up the one of the replica blacksmith shop that Brian submitted to us? If you want to kind of give a background on that image, Brian.
That is a replica of the exact blacksmith shop that John had designed back in 1837 when he moved from Vermont to Grand Tour, Illinois. Basically, you're standing at the corner of the the original blacksmith shop where that picture was taken. But that location there's a working blacksmith that works out of that facility, and it's the exact dimensions, post hole for post hole. It's pretty cool inside. Nothing fancy, but back in 1837 they didn't have a lot of modern mechanics. No. There is one item that is not part of that blacksmith shop that John eventually did put toward his other facility, and that was a horse-powered, I guess it'd be a line shaft, for the lack of a better description.
All right, now, sorry, Miranda, if you want to go back, would you re-pull up the picture of Brian on his A in front of the John Deere Museum? Okay, and what was going on here?
That was actually in the very early stages of the John Deere Tractor and Engine Museum in Waterloo, Iowa. The facility hadn't been opened yet. It was in the final stages of being completed. There was a board of directors meeting, and they were wanting to put up a small display of vintage tractors outside, so when the board of directors would come through, they could take a look at it. And I happened to just have my tractor on my trailer already, hauled it up there at that time. There's about 25 of us that brought tractors in from all over the eastern Iowa area.
Very cool. That's awesome.
It was a great honor.
How long did you have that tractor? When did you buy it? How old were you?
That was my first John Deere tractor that I bought, and I did totally restore it to what it is there in that picture. I probably had that tractor 10 or 15 years when it was all said and done.
Very cool. All right. So in continuation to that, can you let us know what is your favorite John Deere tractor?
You mentioned that question might come up, and I've been thinking on it long and hard. And to be honest with you, I probably would have to say a 4320.
Okay.
It's the step bigger than the 4020. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted a 4320 for like tractor rides. Not that I'd ever go on a tractor ride, nor do I have the space to store one. But I've always found those tractors to be pretty cool when I was working on them in the mechanic side. So
I can say that's not the year I would have thought you would have picked. So that surprises me. Okay, back to Aumann's now. Mm-hmm. What is your top sale, or what are a couple of your top sales since you've started here?
Oh, I'd say probably the top sale that I enjoyed the most was working with the Yeck family up in Michigan, Dan and Sandy Yeck, great people. Had a wonderful auction. It wasn't a big auction by any means. Mm-hmm. I think there was maybe 10 tractors, probably as many plows, and a lot of signs. But Dan and Sandy are just some tremendous collectors who've changed focus in their collecting, and they had some really, really nice, clean items that was really fun. Probably enjoyed that one the most. After that, it was probably the Kevin Boss auctions. Now, I've known Kevin for several years, and I've worked with him on other projects in the past, but his auctions were just weird. And by weird, I mean Kevin liked to collect stuff that was non-usable, and he'd just fix them up to make them operational. Mm-hmm. He wasn't into the shiny paint, but he made contraptions out of nothing. Putting the tracks on the 95 combine with a four-row head, putting tracks on a 40 combine. He has plans of putting tracks on an auger wagon yet, so he's into the unique and different, and I guess that's what I like best about that. He's taken an anhydrous applicator and recreated it from boxes, and a corn picker, or not a corn picker, but a cotton picker, mounted on a tractor. We don't see cotton pickers up here in the Midwest.
No.
And he took that, totally restored it. It's functional. It could go back to the field, I suppose. But again, we don't raise cotton up here, so nobody will know up here. But
Yeah.
that was a unique item that he had. He had a couple D's, extension steel, mechanically restored, but they're ready to go to the field right now. And that's what I liked about that. All his stuff was usable.
Now, the Boss Brothers put on a show every year, and
They
I
do.
think we have a pretty nice picture of you and Travis
Yes.
at one of their shows. Miranda, if you want to bring that up. What is one of your favorite highlights from the Boss's show that they put on?
Probably the biggest thing that I love about the Boss Brothers show is it's a working farm show. They have a show every year. It rotates between small grain and large grain, meaning one's in the summer, 1 year the next year it's in the fall. The one you see right there, Mr. Travis Wibben and I hamming up a little bit. We just got done taking a bunch of straw out. That's me sitting in a manure
I was
spreader.
going to say, you're in a manure spreader,
Yeah,
aren't
I'm
you?
in a manure spreader. But we were just touring up and down the fields, seeing if anybody needed any help with anything. And it's all hands on deck. You see a tractor and you want to ride it, just ask the owner and they'll help you out. Everybody there is just so friendly. Chuck and Kevin do a fantastic job.
They
with
do,
that show.
yes.
They really do.
One of my favorite things is how they separate it. So they normally have the field for like muscle tractors, newer tractors, and then they have the stuff for the older pre-30s type stuff. So I really enjoy how they do that and have that set up. All right. In continuation, let's kind of highlight our auction last night. The John Deere C. What are your thoughts on that one?
Holy cow.
That was crazy.
That is obviously a record price for a John Deere C.
Yes.
They only made a little over 100 of those tractors. How many exist today, nobody totally knows. Best guess, 15, 16. But that tractor just blew off the charts. I think the final hammer price was $320,000 and just astronomical. That tractor is very near and dear to my heart. Back in 2005 at the John Deere Collector Center, the team that I have there, we totally restored that tractor, nut for nut, bolt for bolt. Put the plastic treads you see on the rear tires on. We vulcanized the front rubber on the front tires, front wheels rather. The entire internal components is brand new in that thing. So I had a lot of history of that tractor going into the auction, and watching that sell last night, I was just psyched beyond belief. I have never seen a C sell that high. I think it's safe to say that it's the highest price selling C. And Kurt and I had a discussion this morning. It might be the most expensive two-cylinder tractor sold to date.
Really?
We're doing some research on that.
Okay.
I can't say that for a definitive
Yeah.
fact, but neither him or I or Alex could think of a tractor that sold higher. That's a two-cylinder.
Yeah. Yes.
So that might be an all-time record coming out of the pre-30 sale last night.
That was amazing. I know. I couldn't believe that either. What are your thoughts on like the Waterloo Boy that sold too?
That's a phenomenal Waterloo Boy. Obviously a Kenny Cass restoration, and anybody who's been around the Waterloo Boys know that Kenny Cass had some of the most phenomenal restorations there was on the market. Unfortunately, we lost Kenny a couple years ago, so his tractors are becoming more and more valuable as time goes on, and I think that was a very respectable. It's been a while since I've seen a Waterloo Boy bring that kind of money, and it really shows that the two-cylinder market's still strong out there.
Yeah, it does. Okay, we got to pull up another picture you submitted. You were Santa one year?
Oh, Lord, yes. This is from the John Deere Collector Center days. That is a 1934 open fan shaft Model A in the background that John Deere Archives owns, and it was on display there. We had it as a track that the kids could crawl up on, photo opportunity type thing. Well, every Christmas, myself or one of my staff, we would hop on a tractor and run up and down downtown Moline, carrying either a sack of toys or whatnot, but just drive around, just to spread good cheer, waving all the business owners and people walking up and down downtown Moline doing their Christmas shopping. It was just kind of a fun thing to do every year. Sometimes we made the local news. We spun it as were testing out, Santa was testing out new Deere tractors,
Oh,
just in case the old reindeer didn't make it through. So
there you go.
he was trying to come up with a backup plan.
Mm-hmm. Now, through your years, I know you've gone to shows, and Classic Green is coming up here this summer. What do you think of that show, and what's your favorite part when you go to Classic Green?
The Classic Green group is kind of a new group, actually. Kind of come together about 3 to 4 years now, and it is something that I think the hobby needed some new blood in. I'm not saying that other shows are bad by any means. There's some great shows out there. This is just a little bit more unique. It's all inclusive, anything John Deere on a national level. It's not touted as a local show by any means, and it travels local or regionally. Every year they have a show. The first year was in Grand Island. Last year was out by Columbus, Ohio. This year, Lebanon, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives a chance for people in those regions to bring tractors to focus, to come see what the hobby's about. It's all about the people, no doubt about it. It's a great organization. They do a phenomenal job. They got some great ideas, and it's something that is exclusively John Deere. It's all green, but anything that's associated, whether it's Veely, R&V, sandwich engines. I mean, it's just anything that was related to John Deere.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, I got to ask you, do you prefer in the earlier Deeres unstyled or styled tractors?
I like the looks of unstyled,
Me
but
too.
I'd rather start a styled.
That's fair. That is fair.
20 years ago, hand starting a tractor wasn't a big deal, but as I mature, I enjoy electric start.
That means get old.
Thank you.
Okay, Miranda, would you pull up the picture we have of Brian on his Model B? Maybe. Well, we can talk about this
We
one.
can
That's
talk about
fine.
that
Yep.
one, too.
Okay. So what was going on here?
Well, my hobby interest has changed over the years. I started out collecting tractors. At one point in time, I had 25 tractors in my collection. I've since downsized, and I'm starting to focus pretty hard on pulling tractor. I found I enjoy using them a little bit more instead of taking them to parades and shows and whatnot. So my first adventure into the pulling was with a John Deere B that maybe Miranda will pull up here in a little bit. Then I had a unstyled A as well, and then I've eventually migrated from the Division 1 and 2 pulling on the NATPA circuit to Division 4 and 5.
Okay.
And that's when I stepped into the Oliver. A little bit higher horsepower, definitely a lot more speed, a lot more technical things about it that I really find I enjoy hooking up to a sled and see what can happen.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So you've had the B was yours, correct? And
Yep.
you've had the A.
Yep.
What else did you have in your collection?
At one time, I had 9 Bs. Yeah,
Wow.
I kind of fell into love with the Bs.
Yeah, you did.
And specifically the BNs, the single front wheel, the 40 or the 42-inch rear tires, long axles. So I had some of those. I've had Gs.
Okay.
Of course, I had several lawnmowers, 110, 112s. But yeah, I've had several As. So I stuck with the letter series pretty hard.
Yeah, I would say. Okay, I've got maybe a tough question for you.
Oh boy.
Outside of John Deere, what would be your dream tractor?
Outside of John Deere, there's tractors outside of John Deere?
I guess
Okay.
not according to you.
No. I would probably say my bucket list tractor that I've always wanted is a mist green 880 Oliver.
Oh boy, are you just saying that because Kurt's going to be watching
No,
this?
no, believe it
Okay.
or not, no. I've always found that fascinating because it was a marketing scheme
Yeah.
blunder. It's very similar to the patio John Deere lawn tractors. And I've always just been fascinated by that. They've got a different transmission than the later 880s. And I've just, I do own an 880 Oliver now.
Okay.
It's a pulling tractor, and it's in primer because it's being work in process. But
Okay.
it will eventually be mist green, but it's not a true mist green tractor.
So what do you have left in your collection now?
Not much.
Yeah.
I've really downsized. I moved shops. I have my 2 Olivers. I have 2 110, 120 lawn and garden tractor. And that's about it outside of my normal compact utility tractor skid steer that I still use around the property.
Okay. Would you want to start collecting again, or you want to still just kind of stay small?
I like to stay small. And maybe I'm a little selfish here, I guess. Having had that many tractors in the past, you're always working on carburetors, you're always working on starters, you're always working on tires. And I just as soon run out to the shed, hop on it, and go and do whatever I want to do. I found that I was spending a lot more time digging the tractor out because the one I always wanted was in the back of the shed. Digging it out, okay, now we got to fix the tire, okay, now the carburetor's gummed up, battery's dead, whatever. And I just, downsizing fits me.
Well, I'm sure your wife doesn't mind that either.
No, not at all. She kind of complains that I have too many now, but that's...
It's not that many. When you first started collecting, did you have an interest in memorabilia, toys, anything like that as well? Or were you mainly just focused on the actual tractors?
I appreciate the toys and memorabilia. The only toys that I focused on early on, and it's been an investment, I tell myself, was the Chad Little NASCAR themed
Really?
toys. Yeah,
Okay.
I've got a bad collection of that stuff that is, skyrocketing downward in price. But hey, it was fun. I still collect some. There's some pieces I still like to get a hold of to finish that collection.
Yeah.
But by and large, I've tried to stay out of the toys because they just take up so much space in a house
That's
because it can't go in the shop because they'll just get destroyed out there. As far as memorabilia, having worked in the archives, I've seen a lot of memorabilia, a lot of books, a lot of paper products that I got to see and handle there. I really have no desire to collect into that. There's some pieces that maybe catch my eye just because they're colorful, but not because of the content.
Not because of the content.
Yeah.
Where are you headed this year with Aumanns, Brian?
Oh man, they got us hopping this year. We have a lot of auctions on the books. A lot of that are still materializing. I mean, I leave from here. I'm going to Eldridge, Iowa tomorrow to move tractors. On Monday, I'll be in Kansas. End of the week, I'll be in Geneseo, Illinois, helping Kevin Boss and that auction load out. After that, man, I got to think where I'm going after that. I got to go to northern Iowa, and then we're going to North Dakota, Pennsylvania. Sometime or another, we got to get out to New York. I mean, it's all over. Oh, got to head down to Tennessee, but we got to load out down there, down outside of Macon, Tennessee.
All over.
Cahokia, Missouri, another one. Columbus Junction, Iowa, got a red auction down there we're getting ready for, so.
You'll be traveling, that's for sure.
I'll be traveling. Won't be much pulling this summer, I'm afraid.
No, I'd say not. Okay, one more question. Well, 2 more questions actually for you, and then we're probably going to get close to our ending time. But what is your favorite era, John Deere, non-John Deere, of tractors? Do you have a preference?
Favorite era? That's a twofold question. If I'd pick an era that I'd love to have been around to watch, would have been the early 2-cylinder, meaning the DCGP, watching that development. There's a lot of things going on within the company, a lot of neat ideas being tossed around in the R&D department that I'd love to watch happen. As far as operating, put me in the 60s.
Really?
Yeah, the new gens, the 4020s, like I said, the 4320s, getting up into the 46s, even the 6030s considered the new gen in my eyes. But those tractors, to me, it's when John Deere took over the ag market in big power tractors, and they were pumping out just raw brute horsepower. It was a little bit more operator convenient than it was the 2-cylinders for sure. By no means was it the sound guard bodies on the Gen 2s, but it was the time that anything was possible and was happening.
Yeah.
It's been a cool time.
It would have been, yes, that is for sure. Okay, here's our last question. We try to ask everybody. How do you see the younger generation impacting the hobby?
Oh, wow. How much time you got? I am very upbeat on this. I am part of the Chevrondello tractor judging restoration competition, and I see a lot of young kids from all over the United States doing some phenomenal work.
I bet.
And the knowledge that they're learning is off the charts. Dealing with kids that are freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors in high school that are tackling projects that I wouldn't tackle today.
Yeah.
And making them what they are, understanding the mechanical knowledge of them, heading off into technical schools, whether they're going to work for John Deere, Caterpillar, whomever, is just a huge positive effect I see. Same with the Classic Green. They're sponsoring some tractor restorations themselves. And what I'm seeing is happening is the A's, B's, your small Olivers, 60s, 66s, and H's on the international side, they're starting to be bought by young people.
Okay.
Because the interest is there, and they're affordable.
Yes.
They can get into those fairly economical, and they're learning. And I tell you what, some of the stuff that I'm seeing, we don't have as many young kids per capita as we did back when I was young, just because that's where the generations are. I think there's a huge, huge draw there that the kids are migrating to, and they're wanting to become more technically savvy. And they got to understand the basics, and what better way to start than with a very simple John Deere A or John Deere B or Alice Chalmers WC. Get the basics underneath your belt and then move up from there. So I'm very optimistic. I love what I'm seeing. I love what I see on Facebook. A couple of young kids are popping up, probably 1 or 2, 3 a month that, hey, I'm new here. How do I fix this? And man, the comments that are in support of that question is just phenomenal. And that's just, it's great for the hobby.
It is, and it's good to see that that's how things are going too. So,
Exactly.
Yes. Well, Brian, we want to thank you for joining us today. I know you maybe didn't want to, but I think it went great. So thank you for joining us.
You're most welcome. It's been an honor.
Well, thank you. Well, we wish you the best of luck in your adventures with Aumann Auctions. Keep in touch. Let us know what state you're in. Maybe we can do another one of these sometimes.
Sometime, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
We'll pencil you in. All right. Thanks again for joining us, Brian. If you have a show or event coming up you would like to promote, contact us for information about ad space during our episodes. We also encourage you to submit your collection photos to info@oldirongarage.com to be featured at the end of all of our episodes. Don't forget to visit Aumann Auctions website to stay up to date on what they have coming up this year. Old Iron Talk is now streaming everywhere you get your podcasts, so don't forget to give us a follow. To connect with other collectors and hobbyists, please give us a visit at oldirongarage.com. Thanks for listening.